What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Blues Live. I'm your host, Parker Fleming, recording this on Thursday night, the night after the Grizzlies even the series against the Los Angeles Lakers. But now they're going to LA. We'll see if they could even the series, get home court advantage back, if they can defeat LA nightlife. We're going to be chopping it all up as I'm going behind enemy lines once again. Last week, I podcasted with Harrison Fagan. I got a big-time guest here for this episode. But before I introduce him, let me tell you, you can keep in touch with the show and with the blog. So Grizzly Bear Blues Live is the flagship podcast for the Grizzly Bear Blues Podcast Network, alongside Next Gen Podcast, Starting Five, Core Four, the post-game show with Grizzlies 901, so much more. Wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Megaphone, it's gonna be there. So yeah, make sure you check that out wherever you get your podcast. And Grizzly Bear Blues covers the Memphis Grizzlies for Bluff City Media. You can follow us on Twitter at BCM Grizzlies. Read all of our work at bluffcitymedia.co. And also become a Bluff City Media insider today. But I'll get into that later in the show. But let me introduce my guest. He covers the Lakers. He is a content creator on Watch Playback. He also runs All Access Lakers. He is also a writer for Silver Screen and Roll, the SB Nation site for the Los Angeles Lakers. It's Raj Chipalu. Raj, how's it going, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Parker, it's great to be on here, being me crossing enemy lines as well, I guess, coming and jumping onto a Memphis pod. But yeah, it's nice. I'm doing well. These games are, too spaced out for me. I like a little bit more action day to day. But yeah, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, they had to give LeBron that rest. I feel like you should be thankful because, really, the Grizzlies should be thankful too because
hmm
that's extra rest for Ja Morant. I mean, otherwise we'd be
Exactly.
looking at, we'd be like, oh, well, if Ja missed game 2 and game 3, and then is game 4 in jeopardy. So yeah, I'm glad we kind of have it spaced out a little bit
hmm
for that sake.
Yeah.
But also too, you just have good basketball, man. It's about to not get so spaced out as games 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7. They all have just one day in between, and
Yeah.
with it, and then especially like if it goes like 5, 6, 7, it's like, or really with LA. So you have game 4 in LA, back to Memphis, back to LA, back to Memphis. Like it's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be nuts, but. Yeah, I mean, spaced out. I mean, I don't know how it's been for y'all, like with on the Pacific Coast, like with these Grizz games, like the other day or last night, start time at 4:30. But it's so nice for y'all because y'all are just like nice and done at before 7 o'clock, and you can just kind of like enjoy the rest of your rest of your evening. You get to watch the game during a happy hour, pretty much. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't complain. Like some people, so for the East Coast, right? Those games, some of them start at 10. I can't imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have like the nightcap be at like 7 o'clock and you're done around 10. So I can't really complain. I like more of like the 7 o'clock start, but again, on the West Coast, it's not in Pacific time. It's not really fair for me to complain while other people are up to like 2, 3 a.m. watching, the NBA. Yeah, I can't complain at all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're gonna be hosting a watch party, and
hmm
for just shameless plug, High Cotton Brewery, 9 o'clock for Game 3. Make sure y'all come out. It's gonna be awesome. Great deals on beer and merch, but also too, I'm back with the game scheduling. Like, I'm just glad that there's only one LA game that's on a
mm
weeknight. Like, we get a
Right.
Saturday night game because I mean, for us, it starts at 9 o'clock. So.
Mm.
I mean, I can't complain about that, but yeah, but let's jump right in. Game 2, the Grizzlies even the series. Ja Morant didn't play, but now like LA coming back into LA with home court advantage, looking to make it a 3-1 advantage, which would be huge for LA because that's basically,
Right.
3 chances at most to win one game. That's huge. Just what stood out to you and last night's loss for the Lakers as to kind of like what went wrong on your side?
So I always say there's no desperation like a team down 0-1, right? A team down 0-1 comes out with the most desperation. It's the closest thing to an elimination game. Most teams treat that as an elimination game, right? Either a game 7 or you're down 0-1. You lose both home games at homes to start the series. You're pretty much almost done. It's going to be very hard to now go and take the amount of road games it would take to come back and win. So I thought number one, we didn't match Memphis's intensity at all. The Lakers started 2 for 12 from the field, a lot of lackadaisical shots, and also Memphis came out and I thought they were a lot more physical with Anthony Davis and without Ja Morant. Obviously, the Grizzlies aren't better without Ja Morant. I see that sprinkled in places in terms of the coverage on this team a little bit. They're not better without Ja Morant, but what they are they're different stylistically. So you do have to kind of switch your coverages, right? Tyus Jones is a completely different cover than Ja Morant. You have to be more up on those screens or he'll punish you. He can shoot, the floater game and he can step back and take the three. And I thought we just weren't prepared. We did not prepare enough for that type of defense. And Memphis came out and they ran on us. Xavier Tillman was super physical. Dillon Brooks with Anthony Davis, they switched a lot more. And I thought just putting all that together, AD obviously had his worst game in a very long time. D'Angelo Russell shot like he was blindfolded. I mean, there's just a lot of, guys who had really terrible games. And we didn't come out with the requisite energy. But I thought Memphis came out and, they were up 22-11 to start, and they just never really relinquished that lead. I think the closest the Lakers got was 6. And then before Jaren Jackson Jr. and the other guys put it away. So, yeah, I give Memphis credit, though. Came out. Lakers obviously didn't come out with the right intensity, but Memphis came out and took advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when the Lakers closed it to 6, it was around the time that Dillon Brooks had some words for LeBron. And I'm like, they're going to poke the bear and they're going to lose. And they're going to go down 0-2 going back to LA. This is not great. But no, like, obviously the Memphis' energy level and their urgency was a whole lot better in game 2 than it was game 1. And I'm glad you see that with the whole Ja Morant stuff, because you'll have, like, I already saw where I get Callan Coward of Fox 1, whatever that's called now. But
You're right.
I mean, he was like, oh, the Grizzlies are better without Ja Morant because he's not a good overall basketball player. He's a great scorer. I'm like, he was like top 10 in assists, and you saw like last postseason that like the reason why the Grizzlies didn't beat the Warriors because they didn't have that guy to go get a bucket when you needed it with Ja Morant. But it, like you said, it's stylistically different. Tyus Jones, he shoots more threes, so like you said, you have to kind of put more pressure on him. But also too, you can kind of have Desmond Bane on the ball a little bit more because Tyus Jones is a good catch and shoot 3-point shooter. He's a good corner 3-point shooter.
Exactly.
And you just had to account for more threes, a different kind of offense. He puts more pressure. He has that floater, but also he drives and kicks a lot. And also too, like, the biggest difference in the game was just how the Grizzlies treated Anthony Davis this time. I mean, there was a noticeable fear in Anthony Davis in game 1. I mean, I don't blame them. Like, he had 7 blocks, three steals, 22 points, 10, 11 rebounds. Like, he dominated the Grizzlies. And if it wasn't for Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ruby Hachimura, technically, then Anthony Davis would have been the most dominant player on the floor. But the thing that I noticed was that with Xavier Tillman, in game 1, they just sagged off of him. And he didn't make them pay for it. He just kind of like went through the motions. And he even said he kind of went through the motions, played that dribble handoff, screen and roll, just kind of ran through the actions instead of taking what the defense was giving them. And I felt like in that game last night, Xavier Tillman and the guards both put pressure on Anthony Davis. They forced him to be more active instead of just hanging around the boxes and elbows to patrol the paint. Put pressure on him with the mid-range jumper. And then Xavier Tillman, he tacked on the roll. He crashed from the free throw line into the paint and just really just showed no fear. And I felt like that was really the biggest difference in the game. Kind of lines up with just their overall urgency, but just how they treated Anthony Davis, both defensively and offensively, just like you mentioned, switching more, but just being more physical with him. Like, he's not the kind of guy that's just gonna like back you down and put you in the rim. Like, if he can't get you all the way down into the paint, he's gonna go with that fadeaway jumper, which is just like,
you live with that.
Speaking, it's a lower percentage shot. Yeah, so that's what I kind of saw in game 2.
But yeah, for AD, like for most superstars, like sometimes their best enemy is themselves, right? AD is part of that, and obviously Memphis did a great job kind of bringing that out of him. But yeah, they give credit to them. Obviously, they were told to be super physical. Xavier Tillman was extremely physical with him, and they switched a lot more. And Dillon Brooks also pushed him off his spot. AD likes to catch it about a step closer than he did. He was kind of 2 steps outside the free throw line. That's a little bit farther than he wants to operate from. Again, Brooks is really good at like pushing you a little bit in the back, and that kind of gets you into a physical battle. And I thought also the refs were a little bit in his head. You could tell he thought he got blocked, Parker, I think like 5 times underneath the rim, right? And twice by John Conchar, which I thought was a really nice adjustment, who didn't play a lot in game one, Conchar. But in game two, I thought that was a great counter from Coach Jenkins by playing him in those non-AD minutes as well. But even when AD was on the floor, he blocked his shot twice, I believe, at the rim. Just a bigger size dude that did a great job. But yeah, they took him out of the game, and he was like, what? I think he finished like 4 or 14 or something like that. Just an awful night. And yeah, I think he needs to take more jump shots. He's really lost confidence in it. I mean, you could tell the threes are completely out of his shot diet. So now it's pretty much mid-range jumpers or like jump hooks. And he's a lot of nights he's really okay with just being like a screen big for the guards. This team has a lot of guards now that eat up shots, right? Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, even Dennis Schroeder when he comes to the bench, and AD at times we really just look off and not be aggressive. But Memphis forced him into it. They played him single coverage. They showed out. They showed help with Jaren Jackson and played off Jaren Vanderbilt. You could tell that's going to be a really important line for me going forward. Is without Ja, Vanderbilt doesn't really have a role, like, because he's the one that's picking up Ja full court. And so Jackson is really playing off of him. And that's where AD struggled. He had a really tough time getting any one-on-one baskets. And I expect that to change in game two. You're not going to shut down a superstar, just like Ja Morant. You wouldn't be able to shut him down for a whole series. So I'm sure he'll bounce back. But yeah, credit Memphis. Xavier Tillman, those guys are super physical, and AD didn't respond to that physicality. He didn't meet force with force. He tried to meet force with finesse. And with the Memphis team, it's a very tough thing to meet Memphis with finesse. They're a team that's going to punch you in the mouth. You gotta punch right back.
Absolutely. And, like, no one's expecting where it's like, oh, Xavier Tillman has the answer on AD. Because, I mean, Xavier Tillman's not going to go for 22 points and 13 rebounds every night, nor is Anthony Davis going to have 13 points on 4-14 shooting. Like, it's a 7-game series. Stuff's going to average out. Teams are going to adjust. The Vanderbilt thing's interesting. And it's because, I mean, with the Grizzlies, I had the benefit of watching how Jarrett Vanderbilt was in the Minnesota series last year in that first round series. Him and D'Angelo Russell both. I'm going to withhold all my D'Angelo Russell takes until the series is over, just to avoid any sort of jinxing. But with Jarrett Vanderbilt,
Laker fans have released the D'Angelo Russell demons already. They're already worried. But yeah, I'm glad you're withholding them for sure.
Yeah, I will say I do not envy the Lakers and Rob Pelinka as well as the fans for having to deal with like the fact that there will be like a major free agency decision between D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, and Rui Hachimura. Two of those that are like restricted free agents. Like I don't envy you at all, man. Like that's gonna be tough. But the thing with Vanderbilt, and I saw also Jacob Brood of Lakers SB Nation also point this out, like, and you said, if Ja's not playing, what's Vanderbilt doing out there? So, I mean, what the Grizzlies did last year against the Timberwolves, they did the same thing. They put Jaren Jackson Jr. on Vanderbilt, just kind of had to roam around the rim, and they put Xavier Tillman or Kyle Anderson on Karl-Anthony Towns. And it worked because Vanderbilt just doesn't make you pay, and it's not for the fact that he's not a good basketball player. He's a good basketball player. He hustles. He uses his skill set well, but the volume isn't there. He's not going to be like, all right, well, they're going to just sag this guy off, so I'm going to go cut back door on him and try to get a layup, or I'm going to cut back door and try to get this putback. Like, he just doesn't make you pay for just leaving him open. And then it kind of leaves the question of like, well, if Ja's not playing or if he's minimized, do we just give those Vanderbilt minutes to Hachimura? I mean, you already saw it last night. Rui Hachimura played 32 minutes. Vanderbilt played 22. So, I mean, at some point, you kind of have to go with the guy that's actually providing offense for you.
Right, definitely. It's a huge question, and Vanderbilt kind of needs someone to defend out there. That's kind of been his role so far with the Lakers. Who thrown him on Luka Doncic, right, as well. Thrown him on Brandon Ingram, Ja Morant, and now, I mean, you could throw him on Bane. The issue is that then who's D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves guarding, right? Like that's the issue. You have already kind of a smaller backcourt, and then if you throw your wing onto one of the guards, it's gonna be really tough. I I don't think Darvin Ham is gonna, like, usually when coaches win, they don't adjust, right? They don't adjust to themselves. Like, they're not gonna adjust until they lose. I don't think Vanderbilt's gonna get out of the starting lineup, but I do think Rui Hachimura has cemented himself as the closer. So I feel like that closing lineup with like D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Hachimura, LeBron, and AD feels like their closing lineup. But and Vanderbilt, he's a lot worse finisher than you think at the rim as well. He doesn't finish well at the basket. He really doesn't like to use his right hand either. You saw last night, we went to LeBron in the post a lot, and Memphis started to double. It's another counter as well to Dillon Brooks being so physical. They threw LeBron in the post, and again, Jackson flashes and Vanderbilt cuts. The problem is that he's cutting right into Jackson, right? And it's like pump fake, and Jackson's able to, make him kick it out or make him take a tough finish inside, and him just not being a threat. And plus, our guards don't really. Him and Malik Beasley had a really nice relationship where if they play off Vando, he can go like pin screen for Beasley, right? But
Right.
D'Lo and Austin aren't really those type of shooters. They're not really guys who fly off of screens like that. So there's no one really for him to screen for. Even LeBron's not that type of shooter. LeBron, by the way, 1 for 8 from 3 last night. Hoping that regresses back to at least a 35% or something like that, because Memphis is going to force you into shots. But yeah, the Vanderbilt, conundrum is interesting, and him off the bench is a struggle too, right? We're playing no center, and Memphis is really killing us in those lineups. And Jenkins is doing something that Chris Finch did in the playing game as well, which is really smart. Playing Jaren Jackson Jr. in those non-AD minutes, right? And that's just really genius because you're going against Rui Hachimura as the center there, and it's really free buckets. And Memphis has killed those in those lineups. LeBron, who had a great game, he was 28 points, 12 for 20, very efficient, 10 rebounds. A game worse, minus 17 because of those non-Anthony Davis minutes. So that's the conundrum there with Vanderbilt. I think his minutes are going to live around that range that you just said, and Hachimura would probably take his, Hachimura averaging what? He had 49 points in the first 2 games around, which is
almost like 25 points a game.
25 points a game. He was absolutely, he was incredible he was one of the bright spots in game 2.
Yeah. It's really wild that the Grizzlies are killing the no AD minutes because the Grizzlies, they're out to their 2 best centers with Steven Adams and Brandon Clark. But
yeah,
like you said that, Taylor Jenkins is adjusting. He's like, all right, well, I'll go pull Jaren earlier. And he typically, like, that is in his substitution pattern. He'll pull Jaren in that first substitution pattern for Santi Aldama so that Jaren can come in, and usually Bane whenever Ja plays, but he's had to adjust that. He'll pull Jaren or he'll put Jaren back in a little bit after the other coach pulls their star front court so that Jaren's kind of cooking against second unit lineups. And also, too, that just opens up spacing because you then end up having lineups with like Tyus Jones or Desmond Bain, Luke Kennard, David Rod, Santi Aldama, and Jaren Jackson Jr. So I've really liked that adjustment. And obviously, it's really we haven't seen any sort of like bench explosion, kind of like the Lakers with Rui Hachimura, but like I feel like the bench is contributing their own skill sets. I mean, Luke Kennard as a shooter, providing solid defense. Like he's not one of it's like a misconception where they're like, oh, we're gonna go hunt Luke Kennard, but like he's not terrible defensively. David Roddy spelling Dillon Brooks with between foul trouble and just giving him a breather by taking on LeBron. And then kind of like
huge threes last night too. David Roddy.
Kind of like how Memphis treated Rui in game 1. Like David Roddy shot 7 threes, made 3 of them. Like that's huge. John Conchar. Okay, what was the Lakers reaction? Like Laker Twitter reaction to John Conchar meeting Anthony Davis at the rim? I gotta hear this.
So the first one obviously is like, man, that's a good block by John Conchar, right? Like, that was an impressive one. The second one is like, no, you gotta dunk, you gotta finish that. Like John Conchar can't block you. He can't block you twice at the rim. So that was more of it. And AD gets the soft label gets thrown on him very quickly, right? He doesn't have to do much to be already thrown into the soft label, whether that's injury or whether that's his game, where sometimes he's not as ferocious as people would like their big man to be. So yeah, he gets thrown into that. But yeah, those obviously came up, and John Conchar blocking AD, like that can't happen. You got to be able to go up aggressively. Either you draw a foul, or you put him in the basket, and those are just that was a nice job to meet him at the rim. But again, AD only 4 free throws, which is very low for Anthony Davis, who lives around the 11-12 free throw range. The whole
Mm-hmm.
Lakers team, it gets, if you watch any TNT broadcast, they'll put up the the Lakers, margin of free throws that they the
Mm-hmm.
advantage they have on other teams. And that's a huge part of their game plan. Like, their game plan is to get to the rim, is to get to the line, and to not put you on the line. That's a huge part of the ethos that they play with. And when that gets kind of taken away through the playoffs and the amount of physicality that they allow, it's an adjustment. You can see AD. You'll see, if you watch the game, a lot of times he'll go up, even if he's blocked, he'll turn around at the ref and be like, "Hey, there's a guy on my back. There's this, this." And the refs are like, "Hey, play on." Like that's just playoff style basketball, and the Lakers have to adjust. And Memphis does a really nice job being ultra aggressive and kind of taking you out of your comfort zone. And again, meet force with force. I thought Rui Hachimura did that. I thought LeBron did that. And I thought AD, again, kind of shied away from contact. And once you do that, it's over, because Memphis will pick on that if they can read that out.
They'll do that, and then while you're complaining to the rest about fouls, the Grizzlies are getting transition offense going. I mean, one of the league leaders in pace, one of the league leaders in fast break points. Like, they'll take advantage of that. They want to get in their offense quick. But before we move on to anything about Game 3, I gotta ask. I gotta rattle off some of these quotes, man. All right, let's see if I can find these Dillon Brooks quotes. I'm like. So I have a monitor over here, and like I'm finally actually using it for notes. It's pretty sick. But so, all right, quote: "I don't care. He's old. I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40." He also said that he wishes he would have gotten to guard the LeBron or Cleveland version of LeBron, because it'd be more of a challenge. He also did say too. This was one I tweeted out because it's kind of like was kind of swept under the rug, because obviously this isn't going to be the one that like catches anyone's eye or anything. But he said, he respects LeBron. He's a legend. He's LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
And also too, if you go back to his Twitter account, you can find old tweets of him like praising LeBron, and all that. But he said, like, when you step out on that court, you're just another basketball player to me. Like, you're just another 6'8", 270-pound basketball player to me.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it all gets taken out of context, because at the end of the day, like, for one, it's the playoffs, and two, like, that's the kind of mentality you need as a competitor. Like, you can't just be like, you just can't be like, "Oh yeah, like, this is LeBron James, like the GOAT," all that. Like, you got to have that edge to you. And also too, like, I don't know about you, I just feel like I've been watching this game, and I don't feel that same spice that I felt when the Grizzlies were playing the Timberwolves, or the Grizzlies were playing the Warriors, or back then when the Grizzlies were playing the Clippers in like the Blake Griffin, Zebo era, or when like the Grizzlies and the young Oklahoma City Thunder teams. But I never felt that spice, that animosity a little bit. I appreciate Dillon Brooks kind of adding a little spice to this series. I don't know what you think, Raj, but when you saw those quotes, like, were you just like, man, this dude, like, what were your thoughts?
So my thing is, look, there's no heroes without villains, right? Like, I think you need villains, not just in the NBA, in most like story types and stuff. And I think, Dillon Brooks not only is a villain, I don't think it's fake. I don't think it's, I don't think he just does this for the camera. I think he really does go into every game and be like, that's LeBron James on the other side. Oh, I want to lock him up. Like, that's mine. Like, don't send help. Don't send two. Like, I got him. And I think the Grizzlies embody that. And I think you can tell me if this is wrong, but I think one of the misconceptions that I see, at least even with the Warriors, like, people, go at Draymond for being this wild, crazy dude, right? Who just wiles up crowds. Steph is the exact same way. Steph is that much of an assassin. He wants to kill you just as much as Draymond does. He just doesn't put it out there. I think Ja Morant also wants to like destroy you just how Dillon Brooks does. He just doesn't say it out loud, or he doesn't say these quotes that get put on ESPN. But Ja Morant goes into every game thinking he's the best player on the floor, no matter who he's playing. Dillon Brooks, I think, embodies that kind of what Memphis has. I love it. I love the competition. I think, Dillon Brooks won the battle. LeBron James started to pick up his offense to where, like, I think LeBron James might win the war, but I think Dillon Brooks won that battle. He hit that three, jumping in LeBron's face. You could tell. I think Dillon Brooks was probably chirping all game. I think that point that you mentioned, that where the Lakers cut it to 6, that's where LeBron James first heard it, right? He's like, oh, Okay, like let's go then. I've been hearing this all game, but my offense started to pick up. I think Dillon Brooks picked up his fourth foul, which he also mentioned in those quotes that LeBron started talking after he picked up his fourth foul, which is great, which is amazing. But I love it. I think Dillon Brooks is going to be the villain in this series. Going to be a villain in every series that he plays, at least as a Memphis Grizzly. But I loved it. I think it's great for the NBA. I think they need guys like that. Patrick Beverly filled this role over a lot of times. Draymond Green still fills this role, and Dillon Brooks is a part of that as well. They told the line between aggressiveness and competition, but I think it's great and it's needed for the league, and I love it. Let's bring it on for these next few games.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I remember I think it was 3 seasons ago. Dillon, like this has always been Dillon Brooks.
Yeah.
Someone's like, oh, like what, like something about mentality on guarding best players. I don't remember, but it was over the Zoom, and I think it's about the Booker matchup. And he goes, I like to guard the opposing team's best players. I like to lock them down, and I like to talk a lot of shit. He's like that kind of player. Like this isn't like
Yeah.
any bit. Like this is like Dillon Brooks, and then like you said, like Ja's kind of like he's out for blood too when it comes
Exactly.
to going out and winning basketball games, and also saying how good he is. I mean, sophomore in the league, and he's calling himself a top 5 point guard. Everyone's like, yo, like hold your horses, man. But like he quickly showed why he's a top point guard. And then also too, like he said, yeah, we're fine in the West. And that, now it's kind of led to all these memes and stuff. But I mean, even through Steven Adams' injury, Brandon Clark's injury, Ja Morant suspension, they stayed number 2 in the West. So, and they almost caught Denver. So, I mean, yeah, like it's part of their identity. And that's like one thing that's huge is like a lot of teams, they end up succeeding when they find an identity or they find a play style. And the Grizzlies, they have theirs. And Dillon Brooks, he's always referred to as the spirit leader of this team. Like everybody kind of like takes his swagger and runs with it, and
yeah,
it makes for good hoops, man. Like we live in a day and age, and like I'm not saying this in like an old head way of like, oh, the league is soft, but like people are friends with each other now. Like people in the league, they're friends with each other. It's because like we grow up like in the social media era and the AAU circuits and stuff like that.
yep,
You're playing it with or against these guys for years. Like, yeah, of course you're gonna be buddy and all that stuff. Like, you need a guy every now and then who like just doesn't care about any of that stuff. He just wants to go up and just like lock somebody up. And also too, you got to respect somebody for just everyone wants to be a star offensively, but he wants to be a defensive star. I know his shot selection doesn't really indicate it, but he wants to be a star defensively. That's what matters to him.
I want to ask you about that because I think this is fascinating. And Dillon Brooks has been the first player I think that's been open about it. I think other players do this, like Marcus Smart does this as well. I think you need at least one guy like this on every title team. But Dillon Brooks came out and he said, "I defend so hard that my teammates shouldn't be upset at me taking some ill-advised shots." To put it, I guess I don't remember the exact quoting, but because I remember last year watching the Grizzly series, there was a game he shot them out of it. I mean, it was
He did
a
shoot.
game
I
on
know
the
exactly
road.
what game you're talking about. I know. I know every Grizzlies fan listening to this knows what you're talking about. It's the game 4 against the Warriors.
Yes,
It's that first game without Ja, and they were like about to steal one in the Chase Center,
yes,
and he
and he's
shot them
taking
out.
like he's taking not just shot them out, but like the shot selection, right? It's like step
Mhm.
back 3 in the corner. It's like these aren't like a wide open list. It was like off the dribble step back threes, and look, he defends his ass off. I think he's an awesome all NBA type defender. I just wonder how Grizzlies fans feel, I guess, about that shot selection. Marcus Smart does the same things in Boston. He's not as he doesn't adventure a lot off the dribble as much as Dillon Brooks does. Dillon Brooks does a lot more off the dribble stuff, mid range pull ups in transition, right? Where he doesn't shoot a high percentage, but like he feels like that's a shot he should be taking. He obviously works on it. But what do Grizzlies fan and you feel, I guess, about his shot selection? Does the defense warrant that level of, because you guys are still winning a ton of games? I mean,
Yeah,
50 plus games, back to back seasons. Just he's obviously impacting winning. I'm just wondering how Grizzlies fans feel about the shot selection, I guess.
there is no wider perception of Dillon Brooks or of any player on the team, or really any player that I've seen from the Grizzlies, like I've been a fan of the team since 2003, 2004. And I don't
Mm,
think I've seen as many players as polarizing as Dillon Brooks. Or
yeah.
like I guess Chandler Parsons, but that's kind of different because Chandler Parsons didn't really like, contribute anything on the basketball floor. But like Dillon Brooks, like there's nights where it's like his defense shines and he's kind of feeling himself with like the trash talking and just him Dillon Brooks being Dillon Brooks. And like people are like, oh, this guy has to be a lifelong Grizzly, like love Dillon Brooks, all that. And then there's other games where like the shot selection kind of outshines his defense and people are
Mm-hmm.
ready to Photoshop him in a Shanghai Sharks jersey or like send him to the trade machine tomorrow for like a bag of chips. So like
Yeah.
it kind of just depends on who you're talking to. Me and my people I usually talk Grizzlies with, we have Dillon Brooks Island, and we've had
Okay.
that since like his third year in the league, and now he's everybody's least favorite villain on NBA Twitter. So it's kind of fun.
My opinion is that you have to be at least a little psychotic to defend like how he does, right? I'm not calling Dillon Brooks a psycho. I'm just saying like you have to have that mentality, right? If you're gonna chase Steph around for 40 minutes and be intense the whole time and talk shit while you're doing it to Steph Curry, you have to be a little bit like you have to be like you have to have something that gets you going, right? And I feel like he has that, and I think that's a skill. Like he'll do that to LeBron, right? He's picking up LeBron full court, every single time, every inbound, and after every one of his teammates makes, he's screaming at the Lakers while picking up LeBron full court while talking trash. I just like I think every team needs one of those. I think he kind of bends the line in terms of like, hey, maybe those shots aren't, too
Yeah.
good, especially in the playoffs when possession's lower, right? And every shot becomes even more important, every shot becomes even more valuable. Your possessions go down, transition opportunities go down, and they're like a 3 for 19 in the playoffs is a lot more damaging than like a 3 for 19 in a regular season game. So those things are really fascinating to me. But yeah, I agree with you. I think you need his defense, and he's a core part of Memphis. I was just interested, like how Grizzlies
Hmm.
fans kind of see him.
Yeah, I've always kind of held the belief that I'm not gonna say psychos, but you need wild cards on your team
Yeah,
if you want to go far. You need mental wild cards because a lot of the times those are the dudes with incredible kind of mental toughness. I mean,
exactly.
obviously, probably not the time to mention this guy, but Draymond Green, he's the prime example of that. Marcus
Oh
Smart is
yeah,
the guy you've mentioned. Dennis Rodman, if you're going to throw it way back, the Detroit Pistons were full of them. And I mean, also, too, like that LeBron team, that Cleveland team that won in 2016, they had J.R. Smith, who, like,
yeah.
not like the same because he's not the defender none of those guys are. But again, he's another wild card where he's going to be fearless. He's not going to be like, all right, well, hey, I'll take this off balance three or with 17 seconds left on the shot clock because I think I can make it. Like, that some nights you're gonna end up hitting. You're gonna have a night where like anything you throw up there is just gonna fall in. So that's kind of how
Hmm.
I see it. I see Dillon Brooks as that wild card. It's one of those things where I've always held the belief of like you want to trade Dillon Brooks or you want to move on from Dillon Brooks. Cool, give me a legitimate answer to who is an upgrade over Dillon Brooks who would provide just
Right.
as much or more to this team. And if you can't, like I'm not gonna listen to you. So that's kind of how I think. But Raj, just before we close the show here, so the Grizzlies are going to LA, games 3 and 4. What's one element that you're watching for in these next two games that you think could really swing these games?
Yeah, obviously, the whole background is on Ja Morant. Like whatever, the decision that Ja
Mm-hmm.
plays or not, I think that's going to be the obviously main storyline to me. And then, yeah, I think the Lakers will come out with more intensity. I do think Memphis being able to, space the floor out. I think you already saw that with, Conchar playing and then Tyus Jones starting for Ja Morant. The Lakers have to switch it up. They can't go into these games 3 and 4 thinking it's just because we didn't play hard enough. Like I think that would be the wrong mentality. I think there were legit stuff that Taylor Jenkins did that we're gonna have to counter, especially
Mm-hmm.
the Tillman reason. Xavier Tillman, who played incredible, but also like part of that is we were playing AD so drop back because again the two ball handlers in Ja and Dillon Brooks, they just more than comfortable with living with him stepping back. But with Tyus Jones, you have to be up at the level of the screen. and that kind of leaves guys like Tillman being able to play 4-on-3. And we just didn't tag him enough, and he was able to be physical and get to the basket. That's an adjustment. Another thing I'm wondering is the non-AD minutes. I think that can really flip a series. Those minutes we've been getting killed. I wonder if Wendy Gabriel, who hasn't played yet really in the series, and Mo Bamba, another 7-footer that we have on the team, get some time there to kind of spell those minutes. And yeah, we'll see going forward. The Lakers shot terrible in Memphis as well. They started 2 for 12 from the field, I think I said earlier, and just couldn't find the ball in the net. But those are the biggest things in lowering the turnovers. Had 5 turnovers in the first quarter. It got Memphis going, like you talked about, number 1 in pace. They're going to live in transition because their half court offense already was pretty middle of the pack. Without Ja Morant, that becomes a lot more of an issue. And I thought they got to the rim way too much. I think Memphis had 37 points in the first half against the Lakers. And a lot of that was guys just beating them off the dribble. Luke Kennard, those dudes guys were getting to the basket. And I think those are the adjustments the Lakers have to make. I'm interested to see if Memphis continues to just switch on AD, where they send 2. I thought LeBron started to get going. We'll see if they double him in the post against Dillon Brooks. And yeah, it should be a fun series though, man. I expect this to go a little long. People were already, saying Lakers in 5 when, they won the first game. And I was like, this is a 2-7 series, even with them, having people out. Memphis is a legit team. They also went 35-6 at home, I believe. As everyone who listens to this podcast knows, best home record in the league, which it's a tough place to play. So I expect this to be a long and fun series, and hopefully Ja is able to be a part of that, because I would hate to have that.
Yep, I totally agree. And this is a 2-7, but also it's not like a normal 2-7.
No,
these
for
are
sure.
these are 2 teams where, like, the Lakers, since the trade deadline, they were the best team in the West. But what I like to point out to people too, the Grizzlies were a half game behind them. With all that stuff going on, they were still a really good team. And there's gonna be a lot of adjustments, and also too, like, one thing that's fascinating is, like, both these coaches coached together in both Atlanta and Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So the chess match there is going to be really fun. And I'm very interested to see kind of what happens as the team hits the road, for a lot of reasons, because players play totally different at home versus on the road, and so you wonder how that translates for the Grizzlies. You wonder if the Lakers are going to make sure Shannon Sharp is sitting courtside. We'll see if that happens. But for me, I'm very, very interested, and I think this will define games 3 and 4. Obviously the Ja Morant is very defining, and like him and Tyus Jones are included in this, but it's that battle between like D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves and Desmond Bane, because obviously Austin Reeves absolutely cooked in game 1. I felt like I was like, okay, LeBron James and Anthony Davis are deferring to this man in clutch time of a playoff game. I mean, this dude's legit. Like, and I've always kind of held that belief. I'm like, just from reading y'all's work over at Silver Skinner Roll, I'm like, Austin's legit. Like, he's not like this meme that NBA Twitter and NBA media appointed. Like, he's legit good. D'Angelo Russell was also good in game 1, a lot better than he usually is in playoff games. And like Desmond Bane, he started out really hot in game 2, but he's still, this series, he's shooting 33% from the field, like 12 of 36. He's also 4 of 16 from 3. Like, you have to believe that this won't happen much longer for Desmond Bane, but also you just kind of wonder with Desmond Bane, like, when does it click? When does he have that game where he's like 5 of 7 from 3 and has 30 points? I think and then also too, D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves coming back at home. I want to say in the game yesterday, they combined to shoot 7 of 23 from the field. Russell had 5 points and Austin Reeves had 12. And if you look at their assist numbers, they didn't put on a passing exhibition either. That they each had 4 assists, which actually led the team. The Grizzlies did a really good job of minimizing their ball movement and kind of making them score and creation situations and not really get the ball moving because of the rotations. But I just think whoever of those 3 in particular, whoever comes out on top, I think it can really define what happens on Saturday and Monday in this series.
Well, and for Desmond Bane, the Lakers are really selling out. They're having Austin Reeves on him, and they are, really, top blocking him, trying to chase him over the top. He's I believe he's 4 for 16 from 3 in the
Mm-hmm.
series. Shot 6 for 18 in both of those games. I thought you saw him adjust a little bit. You saw him take pump fake and get like his mid range going a little bit. He took like 2 mid range jumpers, I believe, to kind of get open there. And the Grizzlies, they adjusted on Austin Reeves. I knew they were not about to let, and I'm glad the national. You obviously know you follow the Lakers a little closer than most people, but I'm glad the national people are starting to realize Austin Reeves. He's been rising the Lakers mythological ladder for a very long time, especially for fans. And the letting LeBron stand in the corner while he just cooks at the end of games, that wasn't the first time that's happened. He did that in Utah as well for a must-win game a couple, games ago. So he's been really building there. But I thought Memphis wouldn't just let him, he just Jaren Jackson Jr. was in drop coverage and he just came around the screen and knocked down 3 straight mid-range jumpers. And Jackson was up at the level, he was a lot more higher. They did not let Austin just come off and, fire away. And that's why his shot attempts were a little bit less. He only had 12 points in game 2. And I think that's another counter. The Lakers are going to have to take advantage of Jaren Jackson being higher at that level, and picking on Tillman, whoever else on 4-on-3 situations. But yeah, it should be fun. I don't expect Desmond Bane to have another 6 for 18. He had 6 for 18 2 straight games. It's a little better, too good a player to be shut down that way. And yeah, 1 for 6 from 3. But I'm interested to see his on-ball creation now, because without Ja, if Ja doesn't play, like how he turns into the playmaker role for them. And he was great, I thought, in that role, even not shooting well. He was aggressive. And we just can't play Malik Beasley in this series. I mean, Desmond Bane sees, Shaq says barbecue chicken. Desmond Bane saw that a few times against Malik Beasley. But yeah, it's going to be a fun series. And I think the guard play is really interesting, even without Ja. The D'Lo Austin versus, Bane and Brooks, 2 big, stout, physical guards against 2 really skilled guards, right? So it's going to be interesting to see.
Oh yeah, I always give a lot of credit to the Lakers defense and how they've been top locking Desmond Bane and Luke Kennard. I mean,
Yeah.
with Luke Kennard, he's been shooting well. Like he's shot 4 of 8 from 3 this series, but he's only had 4 threes in each of those games. Like prior to that, he averaged 6 since joining the Grizzlies and had a 13, 14 game span where he was averaging 7 threes attempted per game. Like they've done a really good job on that game plan and just like taking the guys like Dillon Brooks and David Roddy and being like, hey, shoot some threes. Like you're open, just let it fly. And really good game plan. But I'm excited to see what happens here in games 3 and 4. But Raj, is there anything else you want to add here before we close the show?
No, man, this was really fun. I think it's gonna be a fun series. I predicted Lakers in 6. Sorry, Memphis, crowd, but I'm excited to see where it goes, man. I was super high on Memphis, and I like their team a lot. So should be a really fun series. A lot of counters back and forth. 2 coaching staffs, like you said, from the same tree. Budenholzer having his own tree is kind of interesting. I remember when he was, just signed in Milwaukee. We're just getting old here, but Budenholzer having his own tree is funny how it works. But yeah, it should be fun, man. This was really fun to go.
Absolutely, this was a blast, man. I got to give credit to Laker Nation, Laker Twitter. Like it's refreshing after I think the Warriors Twitter sets a really high bar of toxicity, or y'all just talk ball, y'all root and y'all root hard for your team, and whenever the Lakers win, it's we're back, we're winning a championship. It's fun. It's not. There's no animosity. There's no hate, and it's just 2 fan bases looking to talk ball. So I've enjoyed this series for sure. I know you and the rest of the Silver Screen and Roll team are putting together some great work over at that blog. So yeah, so make sure y'all go check out Raj for all his Laker content at Raj Chipalu. You can also join his playbacks for his all access videos as well. And you can find me on Twitter at Pac_Flocka. And make sure you become a Bluff City Media Insider today for just $5 a month. All the best Grizzlies coverage. You can also go in the merch shop for 20% off. Get a dope shirt like this. It's a Brandon Clark shirt that my wife designed. Super sick. She's going to make more stuff like that. And make sure you go to the watch party for Game 3 at High Cotton Brewing starting at 9 o'clock. But show up early, Got some deals and some pints. If you're insiders, your first round's on us. What's better than that? We'll have a live pregame and postgame show. And make sure you are liking, subscribing, downloading, writing a review for the Grizzly Bear Blues Podcast Network. Visit all of our work over at bluffcitymedia.co. That's it. We'll see you next week.